The 2024 Trafficking in Persons Report is a comprehensive, objective assessment of the state of anti-trafficking efforts across 188 countries and territories, including the United States. For more than 2 decades, this report has documented emerging trends, highlighted areas of progress and setback, identified effective initiatives combating human trafficking. Let me start by saying how grateful I am to Ambassador Dyer and the entire team. I'd also like to thank our colleagues at posts across the world for your work in gathering the information, meeting with host governments, engaging survivors to enrich the report, and further our mission. As always, our diplomacy, American diplomacy, is at its best when it reflects strong bipartisan support. That's why we're also grateful for the partnership from both sides of the aisle in Congress on this crucial and, alas, enduring issue. And thank you to the Human Trafficking Expert Consultant Network and the U.S. Advisory Council, who ensure that our policies are centered where they belong, on the experiences and on the perspectives of the survivors. We're honored to be joined today by these 10 TIP report heroes, remarkably courageous individuals who are driving change in the face of daunting obstacles, often at great personal risk. Each hero brings a unique approach to tackling this challenge, but their efforts, like those of our government, are rooted in a shared belief in the fundamental rights and freedoms of all people. Trafficking violates that shared belief. It also undermines the rule of law. It weakens border security. It limits people's economic opportunity. And while trafficking is as old as humanity itself, perpetrators continue to evolve their methods. The 2024 report examines in depth one of those emerging practices, the growing role of digital technology in trafficking, and I commend it to you for that reason, among many others. Around the world, trafficking networks target and recruit victims online, through social media, through dating apps, through gaming platforms. Perpetrators conduct financial transactions in opaque cryptocurrencies. They use encryption to make it harder to detect their activities or ascertain the countries where they're operating. And increasingly, traffickers coerce their victims into participating in online scams. Let me give you just one example of this. Traffickers used fake job listings to lure individuals away from their homes with the promise of well-paying jobs. Instead, they were taken to an isolated, guarded compound in Burma where their phones were confiscated. There, captives were forced to swindle people online, including American citizens, swindling them into investing in fake cryptocurrencies, typically through romance scams. One trafficking survivor, a chemical engineer from India, told a reporter that he was locked in a cell and starved until he agreed to take part in the scams. This practice of combining human trafficking with cyber scamming is becoming more and more common. Now, social media can reinforce stereotypes about who can be a victim of trafficking, including along lines of gender, race, ethnicity, and class. Like the false but widely held notion that trafficking only affects women and girls. These misconceptions limit the ability of communities, of authorities, and even victims themselves to recognize abuse as it's happening. At the same time, this year's report shows how some of these same technologies can be deployed to uncover and disrupt trafficking and can help us better hold perpetrators accountable. Civil society and the private sector are collaborating to create and apply AI-enabled tools that detect trafficking operations. Here again, an example. Tech Against Trafficking, a coalition of leading tech companies and anti-trafficking NGOs, is developing machine learning initiatives that address emerging trafficking trends and tactics. This allows advocates and governments to identify and share new vulnerabilities, as well as to more effectively track down and prosecute trafficking schemes, all the while preserving the anonymity of the victims. Civil society groups are rolling out mobile apps to provide vulnerable individuals and groups with information about their rights, as well as about the wages the labor conditions offered by potential employers. Other digital tools empower workers to document and report trafficking. In Brazil, the State Department assisted a trade union that represents millions of rural coffee workers to set up a helpline on WhatsApp where laborers can report abuses and get the support they need. Governments are integrating digital technology into their anti-trafficking efforts. Canada, for example, worked with major financial institutions through Project Protect, a public-private partnership that reviews suspicious transactions to identify the potential laundering of money from trafficking. Trafficking is the very definition of a problem that no one nation can solve alone. More than ever, we have to work not only with governments, but along with the private sector, civil society, multinational organizations, citizens and survivors who understand the complex challenge and how we can confront it, and they know this better than anyone. Survivors like Alami Noyan. After graduating from university, he was lured away from his village in Bangladesh by a man who promised a higher-paying job abroad. Noyan's parents sold much of their land to cover the cost of his passport and fees. Instead, he was taken to a neighboring country where he was forced to work alongside others who were clearing a dense jungle. They were never paid. No one was allowed to leave. If we retired or refused to work, we would be beaten, Noyan said. For 7 months, he worked in these brutal conditions until he and others waged a dangerous escape. Eventually, Noyan made his way to the Bangladeshi embassy and finally back home. But that is not the end of his story. Having escaped, Noyan decided to dedicate himself to helping those who found themselves victims of trafficking. As he put it, I turned my scars into strength. Years later, thousands of people owe their freedom to his efforts. Today, we honor Noyan as one of our TIP heroes. His story is a testament to the extraordinary resilience of the survivors and all that they contribute to this shared moment. So, I wanted to highlight the report to you, but I especially now want to get out of the way so that you can appreciate and applaud the extraordinary individuals who share this stage with us, our TIP report heroes. To them, to all of you here who are working on this vital mission, thank you, thank you, thank you.